This one?
Welcome to this episode of The Antichrist. It is part of our ongoing series where we're talking about the events of the last days and what will materialize as we move to year 6000 Yah, which is just 8 years into our future. We're here with Leah. We'll bring her up, I'm sure, on screen momentarily as part of this program. And it is an amazing experience that we have just experienced together, to use experience there 3 times now in one paragraph, and that I have been expanding what can be gleaned from what Yahweh revealed in Numbers 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And while it is a hysterical, it is a hysterical,
little.
It really is. That was a Freudian slip there. It is a hysterical narrative. All of it is hysterical.
Hysterical and historical.
And also historical.
Yes. The two combined.
It is also prophetic and riveting in its prophetic implications. Both, in fact, all of it, with 11, which is the meltdown of the children of Israel and the subsequent
rebellion.
It's the Moshe's response to it, where Moshe just flat out gave up and blamed God.
It's like, kill me now.
Obnoxious
These
nature
people are
of
impossible.
Israel. So what it says is that Moshe himself said, no one can relate to these people. No one can lead these people. These people are obnoxious. They're impossible. And I want you to kill me because no one can do this job.
I know how you feel.
That's pretty strong language. And Yahweh, by the way, didn't disagree with him. He actually concurred with him. And then he provided Moshe with the solution, which was a couple of guys.
I got a guy or two.
They would be Eldod, God's beloved, and my Dod, the one who supports Dod. And we move from there to one of the most misunderstood prophecies, really, in the Torah. And it is the story of how Miriam went from being an insider, even considered a prophetess, for leading the women's chorus of the Song of the Sea. And she and Aaron decided to plot against their brother, Moshe, by attacking his wife. And then once they had crippled him in their view by denouncing his wife, they went about saying that we too speak for God, which is a totally correct presentation, really prophetic presentation of what we have endured quite recently with a mother goddess cult, demeaning my wife and then claiming to speak for God. And we studied God's response to that, which is to say, hell no, you don't. And it was really emphatic as to how God responds to those who claim to speak over and around and against those he has chosen to convey his testimony to his people. And one of the most prophetically important narratives ever uttered, particularly for our time. And we had thought that pretty much put the rebellious mother goddess cult that had risen in our midst to bed. And also taught us a great deal about the nature of those God chooses to work through and how they're flawed, even Moshe, and how the job of leading Yisrael back to Yahweh and back to his son, Dod, back to the truth about what God is offering them and expects in return. What we have learned in those 2 chapters is that Israel is indeed impossible. The job that God has asked me to perform on behalf of his people has never been achieved because the people are that obnoxious. Jews, I'm sorry to tell you, you have a real problem with God.
We always have.
Yeah. And then we go into the 13th chapter, which over the last few weeks I have translated and commented on. And in the 13th chapter, we have the story of the spies.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find is that Moshe begins by saying some things again that he should never have said. Moshe is really having a tough time at this point. And he gives them a pep talk that has things in it that you just say, oh my God, he didn't say that, did he? And
I can relate.
and apparently, and they go and they do this thing and they come back and they are just out of their minds. They're lying. They're imagining things. They are denouncing God. They're spitting at his face. They're saying, we don't want this. We just as soon go back to Mitzrayim. In fact, if our choice is to live with God in this place or die, we'd rather die.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to go back to Mitzrayim. And then you go into the 14th chapter, and they're grumbling to Moshe again and saying, we don't want you anymore. We want to pick our own leader. And they tell him that essentially we despise God. And then you finally have two guys that stand up. Caleb is the most articulate of them. And he has this whole speech about, if God can still accept us and tolerate us based on all we've just said and done, then if he is with us, we don't have to worry about the people in the land. That God's given it to us. He'll be with us. We'll be fine. Let's go. The land is beautiful. And then they are challenged by one of the spies who just absolutely trashes them and trashes the land and trashes Yahowah and is just belligerent and obnoxious towards God. And unfortunately, he represents virtually everyone in the audience because they all speak with one voice. And they decide that they want to stone Caleb to death. That's how angry they are. It gets worse and worse and worse. And finally, Yahowah says, okay, he hasn't been there to be seen. And he shows up in significant power and the tent of the restoring witness.
Imagine that.
And that distracts them from stoning Caleb, of course, and Yosha. And what he says, it's hard to imagine coming from God. And we will go over it in great detail, but let me just give you a quick summation, which is that any Jew that says God is with us, any Jew that says we're being protected by Hashem,
no,
that we're going to pray to Hashem and it'll be just fine. Well, I'm sorry. Your God despises you.
Well, that's fair because they do too.
Yeah, his perspective is that you have disrespected him,
despised him
that
first.
you actually abhor him, that you've chosen to replace him.
All
and he
true.
thinks that based upon what he has done for you, that is so obnoxious that he wants no part of you. And he says, as far as I'm concerned, you're as good as dead. You're disowned. I want nothing to do with you. I'm out of here. Our relationship is over. So you need to know that's the story of God's relationship with Israel. It was over.
She sounds like a horrible woman.
Then God comes up with a plan. The first time with Moshe and the couple chapters prior to this, he said, don't worry, Moshe, I got a couple of guys. We're going to get this resolved. Well, in this case, he says, I got a guy. One guy. I'm going to fix this with one guy. And unlike all of the detailed analysis of how each one of you came out from one of the tribes of Israel, my guy's not a Jew. My guy's a goy. I'm going to make one goy greater than all of you. I'm going to accomplish more with one goy than I could with a lot of you. And with that one goy, I'm going to bring a multitude of you back. That's what it says. It is a gut-wrenching discussion. One of the most powerful I've ever been part of as I translate it. And I still have to finish the 14th chapter because the 15th chapter is astounding because God will get into more detail as to how he's going to reconcile his relationship with these people that he has given up on through the lamb, through the bull, through the goat. And then he condemns that man who is out uprooting his trees. And we will speak at length as to what those trees represent and why that man had to die. Solving the most difficult passage there is in the entirety of the Torah in the process. It is amazing what God is revealing to us at this time on behalf of his people. I shared something with you not too long ago, within the last week, that I want to repeat. I've been doing this for 24 years, virtually every waking hour. I do it anywhere from 10 to 15 or 16 hours a day. I do it 6 days and 7 days a week, typically 7. And I will tell you that in the last few months, particularly in the last 6 months, I have learned more than I did in the previous 2 years. And in those 2 years, I learned more than I had in the previous 22 years. There's just something about building a foundation of knowledge and of understanding, and how once you have it, you're able to read the words that God has communicated, and they all just come to life. Every nuance falls into place. Every picture, every shade, every stroke of every letter begins to resonate, and you know exactly what God is conveying. And this is the story.
You can only do that if you
treat Numbers.
You can only do that if you treat the Torah ethically.
Yeah, you have to treat the Torah literally as a living entity. That it is your teacher, and that it is not a book to write over in the sense of the Talmud,
or twist, or pervert,
or to think that you can outwit God. I'm going to tell you that God, all the way through this process,
not a bright idea,
was unbelievably brilliant as he dealt with these malcontents.
Yeah,
you can't outwit God, but it's for damn sure you can learn from him. And he has a wicked sense of humor.
Oh, and a sense of irony as well.
Oh, it's amazing. You know,
and
here
justice.
I was, just good fun, you know, mocking myself for God referring to me as the Palmoni, and having a good laugh at it, you know, and saying, "Yep, now I'm the little Palmoni." And say, "Thanks, God, that was really fun. You're mocking me for telling you that I think I can outdesign the platypus. I knew you'd get me in the end. Can't compete against God." and so here I am having fun with being sort of mocked in a fun way with the Palmoni reference. And God comes up with this one in Numbers 14 that is beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It goes so far, and we will prove it when we go back there, as to say that Yisrael, Jews, God is absolutely and unequivocally not with you. And he is absolutely and unequivocally with me. And if you want to be part of us and be reacquainted with Yahowah, You need to listen to what Yahweh has to say through me. And then you will be part of that magnificent assembly that will be gathered together on Yom Kippurim as part of the celebration of Towrah prior to it, so that we can all dance together again during Sukkah. This is your opportunity. And if you continue to be belligerent, if you continue to pretend that your Hashem, your G-D that you have made up is with you, you will not be part of those who go forward in time. All right. So with that lighthearted introduction.
Wow, very lighthearted indeed.
Yes. We're
Well,
going
I have this feeling that many Yahud who are just simply so enmeshed in their rebellion and hatred for Hashem, the name, first of all, bamboozled by our leaders, religious and otherwise. And, we're going to keep on doing the same thing we dig in. We dig in. That's what we do. And we're really good at it. Yeah. It's an unfortunate thing because we're capable of so much more.
God, in that passage in Numbers 14, actually says that one goy will be greater than all Israel. And he doesn't say that because he wants one goy to be greater than all Israel. It's because the one difference in that one goy and all Israel is the one goy was willing to listen.
If you ask this Yahud, to me, you are greater than all Israel, because every single one of them are in open rebellion.
So it was a very clear statement that one goy be greater than all of Israel. And his greatness isn't because of him, although Yah was very good at sharing credit. He would do one thing that Israel would not do. Actually listen to God. In Debatim, where it says that, listen, Yisrael, Yahweh is your God, Yahweh is one. And Israel has turned that into a prayer where they screech Adonai and remove Yahweh's name.
Yep.
And rather than listen, they cry.
Like a little punk.
It is the epitome of what the problem is.
Yes.
And when Yahweh says that one goy will be greater than all of Israel, that goy is not in a position to brag because it's a very low bar. You have set a very low bar.
That is true.
You have rebelled against God. You have upset him. You have denounced him. You have done everything you could to rebel against him. And he happens to be God and doesn't appreciate it. And then you've spit on his son, and he doesn't appreciate that either. And so what we learn is that God couldn't save Israel through Israel. You were too far gone.
Too dangerous.
Too belligerent, too hard-headed, too stubborn, too obnoxious, too full of yourselves, too Talmudic. And that God literally could not save you from yourselves. And that the only opportunity for you, Israel, was for God to partner with a goy, with somebody outside the tribe. Not because that goy was special, other than he was unique among men. And that when Yahweh called, he said yes. When Yahweh asked, he agreed. When Yahweh then requested more, he said, let's go. And he's been there every step of the way. And he continues to learn. He continues to share. And with the seven spirits of Yahweh, he is really no longer just a man. He is hope. So in spite of God's animosity towards the children of Israel, in spite of the fact that the final chapter has already been written and all of the plans of those who are religious and political have been foiled, these very thoughts are reverberating in the minds of the religious and of the political, especially the leaders the world over. And that makes this prophetic also of Muslims. We read in the 83rd Mizmor of Dod, speaking specifically of our time. He spoke specifically of the treaty that's going to dissect Israel in the previous statement. He said specifically that there will be those screams, Palestine will be free, that Israel will exist no more. Dod was a prophet. He knew what he was talking about. And now he says, those are the ones who said, we want to steal. We want to have control over. We want to take possession for ourselves of that which is associated with the pasture and abode of God. Psalm 83:12. Now, Muslims in particular have branded Israel as their own with the Dome of the Rock and with Al-Aqsa Mosque.
They even claim to be a chosen people. Mm-hmm.
Before and after, they have systematically terrorized the chosen people. And after the next year, Trump will have taken the land by promoting the two-state solution, which narrows Israel at the waist, also assuming that America has the right to assert its control over God's home and do with it as he pleases. This is the very thing that will elevate Donald Trump, as he is possessed by Satan himself, into the status where he claims to be a god. Because if he can take God's land, if he can impose himself as the supreme leader of Israel, which he will do, then he can claim to be God, which he will. Plotting among his cohorts and using the United Nations, he seeks to impose his authority over all Israel. And he continues to issue resolutions that are more resolutions against the Jewish state than all other nations combined. Now, all of this brings us to the word associations and visual picture that was shared between Mizmor 83 and Yeshayah 17 and 18, making these connections essential for our understanding of the events which will play out during the time of troubles. This reads, my God, Dod is speaking to his father, I want you to initiate the process such that they become like dung, like a rolling ball of idolatrous feces, spinning like a tumbleweed in a whirlwind. Gagal. Gagal is a dead and dried calyx of thistle. A whirling chariot wheel is part of a weapon of war or a troop transport spinning out of control. It is from the root galal, which means dung. Yelul, religious idols. Goleleth, skull. Gula, a basin, vessel, or bowl. And Galil, circuitous. Galah, to expose, reveal, and remove. And Galal, to roll away. Like the puny dead sticks and stubble that are bound together in the approaching presence of the Spirit, of the Ruach. Song with lyric, Psalm 83:13. Now, this word picture is especially vivid. And it is so similar to the one drawn in Yeshayah 17 that we'd be wise to see them covering the same swath of history. And since that is the case, the scene has been Well, considerably clearer, with new insights revealing the identity, the characteristics, and the motives of the perpetrators at this time that are haunting Israel. Now, I personally am seldom cautious, but this is one of those times. There is an aspect of an association with Galal, the rolling ball of idolatrous dung that is spinning in a whirlwind, which is heartbreaking. And this was something you pointed out, Leo, that there are thousands of unglazed gula, pottery vessels, inscribed with both Hebrew and Aramaic, that have been found in Mesopotamia, dating to the time of the Babylonian Talmud and the time that Islam was born. These incantation bowls are covered with chants, combining magic spells and prophetic statements, divine names, and dead spirits. Many gula have been found with Golgotha skulls inscribed on them. They were used to frighten off evil spirits and to enlist the help of demons, to harm adversaries or find love or money, as the case may be. They were even decorated such that they are pictorial representations of the desired spells around the bottom quarter of these gula. Many, if not most, intermingle Torah and Talmud stories with Babylonian religious myths and Greek Gnosticism. Sadly, not only is the Babylonian Talmud riddled with these same myths, magic spells, and incantations.
You missed one, G1. What about the Golem? Oh, that's a huge one. Big Hebrew campfire story. Yep, Golem.
So these same Talmud myths have become the principal basis of Judaism. Mm-hmm. The Talmud contains stories about demonic encounters and of rabbis using magic spells to harm and heal, demonstrating the words found on these gula were woven into the religious culture of the Jews at the time that the Babylonian Talmud was being codified. The same demons solicited in the Talmud, such as Ashmedai and Lilith, also appear on the gula clay vessels. And by the way, they also made it into the Quran and into the Islamic Hadith.
Ain't that something?
Yep. This is particularly distressful because these same rabbis are indeed responsible for Islam's Quran. Without them, the Quran doesn't exist. Without them, Islam doesn't exist. And therefore, Islamic terrorism directed at Israel only exists today because rabbis sold Muhammad their Talmud stories. Had they not done so, and had Muhammad not twisted them and attributed them to Allah, Islam would not have been perceived as a religion today. Muhammad would have been nothing but an impoverished version of Genghis Khan. Also damning, just as a self-acclaimed rabbi, Shaul, Paul authored the pivotal books of the Christian New Testament. And just as rabbis played the leading role in helping Muhammad create his Quran, the rabbis are the ones who created the Talmud and wrote these magic spells also for the Zoroastrians. Mm-hmm. And by intermixing their various religious beliefs, there is even one such bowl in which the rabbi spoke of the power of the cross that included a reference to the pagan concept of the Trinity.
Isn't that something?
All to market the gula to Christians.
Mm-hmm.
The sad truth is that Judaism is as steeped in pagan, Babylonian religious lore and Greek Gnosticism as is the Christian New Testament.
Sure is. Even the phylacteries are pagan.
Dode David, who I am convinced is the author of this Mizmor, this psalm, knew better. He wanted no part of religion or of the religious. He wrote, "Just as fire purges and removes the wooden thickets, and as flames set ablaze the hills, so in this manner pursue them with your tempest, and with your strong and fulfilling wind that brings this to a righteous conclusion, bewilder and dismay them." Psalm 83, 14 and 15. This is an example of you don't know until you know.
That's right.
You'd read these words, oh, this is all just symbolic, and Dode is waxing poetic. No, he's not.
No way.
He's actually describing an event in future history.
Yes.
You see, there's going to be 2 purging fires on the day of Towrah, Yom Towrah, in year 6000 Yah, September 24th of 2033. One of those fires, both of which, by the way, are set by Yahweh, is going to rid the world of the religious and political, the patriotic and the conspiratorial, and it's going to incinerate them. It's going to remove them.
Right?
Throughout the wooded thickets. They're going to set the hills ablaze.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like dung.
It's going to pursue them to the ends of the earth. That will be it for religion. That will be it for politics. That will be it for militarism and conspiracy. They will all be gone.
Go away.
All gone. And God, at the same time, because remember the dung and the whirlwind, he's going to turn those people into fertilizer so that the land can be restored to the conditions found in Eden. Fertilizer is very good for growing stuff. It is.
Yeah.
So this is precisely what's going to happen. Now, there's another fire at this time, also ignited by Yahweh, with Eliah doing the role of master of ceremonies. And it is the fire that is set beneath the carcass of the Adamah Parah.
That's right.
This bloody red bull who is productive. And that one will purge and wash clean, because there'll be a torrent of water released by Yahweh under the Temple Mount beneath the Adamah Parah, is going to purge and cleanse the adulterous woman that is Israel, so that she can be betrothed to her returning king, who is Dode David, who is returning in 10 days. This is the most spectacular event in human history that we are describing here. Leah is convinced that it is the great day of Yahweh.
Yep.
Well, I am still of the contention that the great day of Yahweh is when he returns with Dode, and he is in a position to marry his son to Israel.
I think it's when everybody comes back to the land, and they are able to make
come back on Towrah. That is correct. And he gets to hear the great oratory of Eliah, who he dearly loves on Towrah, and he gets his second son to offer his corporeal body to fulfill a Moed Mikra.
Yeah, this is the family reunion.
He rids the world of all of the adversaries and all of the religious who have annoyed him up to this point on Towrah.
All gone.
He terraforms the earth back into the conditions of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
On Towrah. He purges his people so that they can be reconciled in their relationship with him. On Towrah. It's a pretty good day.
It is an awesome day.
It's an awesome day.
Awesome. So, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal.
Yeah, it is a very big deal. And Yahweh can call me a girly cow if he wants to, just for the opportunity to participate in this day. So that is what we are speaking of here. And God is saying, or Dode is saying of God, that your strong and fulfilling wind will bring this to a rightful conclusion. This is the conclusion. This is 10 days before he returns. And the conclusion is us entering Sukkah after he returns with his beloved son, Dode, on Kippurim. These 15 days, this is...
home stretch.
Wow. This is just, it's the greatest show of earth. These 15 days are exceedingly special. And you'd have to be out of your ever-loving mind to continue to give homage to a Hashem and a G-D and pretend that the rabbis know what they're talking about, that they're somehow esteemed or smart, or that you continue to be a Christian or continue to be a Muslim, continue to speak out against Israel. You've got to be out of your ever-loving mind to be a Marxist when you could participate in all of this. You could be there. You could share this extraordinary time. And the reward is that you get to live with God, camping out with him on the earth, restored to the conditions of Eden for 1,000 years. And that's just the beginning. That's just the hello. You know, you had me at hello. That's just the hello. After that, it's an eternity in the 7 dimensions of the universe. Well, 6 of the universe. And
I think you have to want to be there, darling.
Well, of course you have to want to be there. And you got to have the want to even be in a position to be there, because you've got to know who Yahweh is. You've got to learn who he is, what he's offering, what he expects in return, what's going to happen over these next years. You know, we've done probably 1,000 hours now of these blogs. Yeah. And we have written 25,000 pages. You can see these books behind me. Written 25,000 pages of information on coming to Yada Yahowah. You got to read. You got to listen.
Even that, but even that there's some that do, you have to treat the text ethically and not go and do your own thing. You know, that's something you would know a lot about. So if you plan to do your own thing, don't bother.
You know, I made a comment in the chapter that I'm writing now for Coming Home 4, that at this point, the only way back to Yah was through Yada Yahowah. And that sounds a bit much, doesn't it? Until you realize that there isn't enough time left to do what I've done for you. There isn't enough time to go back to the oldest manuscripts of the Torah from the Dead Seas and to scrub the text.
Worse than that, there's statistical probability that points to one person and one person only. Sorry.
Yeah, but you can't go back and scrub the text of the diacritical markings and the religious influence of the rabbis. You barely have enough time to scrub your mind of the influence of Judaism or Christianity or Islam, and to take God seriously. And then to tie all of the necessary statements together so that you have a translation that's accurate and complete and explained for you with all of the necessary insights provided so that you can capitalize upon it, so that you understand the relationship between Yahweh and his beloved son Dod, and the covenant and the invitations to meet with God. It's just not possible now. You don't have enough time to get a product like these written. I mean, this is one of 35 books. And look at this. I mean, it's 825 pages.
It'll take you a year just to read it all.
Well, with amplified translations, where you have the opportunity to see in bold what is the key element that is being communicated, and in the parenthetical, the ability to check and validate the Hebrew word to see to it that it's accurately rendered, and then an expanded version of that so that you know even more about what God had to say, and then an explanation further down of what all of those words mean relative to everything else God said. And this volume is just on the 2 harvests. This is just on Shabuah and Towrah. 2 of 7 invitations to meet with God. And that's just one aspect of our relationship with God, are these Moed Mikre, which the rabbis have so screwed up that you have to completely purge your mind. You have to go back to the point where you say, I know nothing.
Yeah.
You have to forget even
total reset
what Passover, what you think Passover means.
Yeah.
Start
or
all
any
over,
of it.
because Passover is not the beginning of the Exodus. Passover is not the doorway to freedom.
No.
Passover is not a 7-day holiday.
No.
All of that you have to discard. Passover is the doorway to life. Matzah is the time of freedom, and it's away from religion and politics. And Passover is part of matzah, not the other way around.
That's right.
And it's on matzah that your guilt, religious guilt, is removed from you and taken into Sheol, never to be seen again. And that leads to Bakurim, which is firstborn children, all of which were fulfilled by Yahweh's Bakor, firstborn son, in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE. Now, none of that is conveyed in Judaism. None of that is conveyed in Christianity. All of that is conveyed by God. So you just don't have enough time to put all these pieces together. I've been working at it for 24 years, 100,000 hours to give you this gift because this is what Yahweh wants you to know.
Well. Where can they find those books?
YadaYah.com.
Mm-hmm.
All over this site. You can see it here on the blog. Let's see, there, right there. So it's the opposite direction here on the screen that you would naturally think, but I got it there, right there. YadaYah.com, right there on the screen. And you'll find that all of those books are available and page turners, easy to read on your phone, your computer, your television, a tablet, laptop, you name it. It's there for you. And it's even integrated with these blogs so that you can listen as you read. So with your strong and fulfilling wind that brings this to a rightful conclusion, this is the conclusion. This is the last 15 days of the world as we know it. And matter of fact, Towrah marks the end of the time of Jacob's troubles. This is the beginning of forevermore. This is the beginning
happy time.
Happy ever after. You know, the old line from so many of the wonderful children's stories, happily ever after.
Yes. This is the
beginning. It's the first day of happily ever after.
Yeah.
And it will, of course, be wonderful for those who are included. And it's going to bewilder and dismay the religious and the political. So this is actually prophetic of the way Yahweh has promised to incinerate the religious terrorists besieging Israel on Towrah in year 6000 Yah. And if you are part of that Jewish community again, and you think that you are 197 years away as opposed to 8 years away from year 6000 Yah, surprise, surprise.
You listen to the rabbis.
Maimonides was an idiot.
Yep.
He based his timing not on the Torah genealogies, not upon Dode's explanation of when he was
not upon anything Torah. No.
So that I know exactly when these things are going to unfold, because I've done the study and I trusted what Yahweh had to say, and particularly what Dode had to say prophetically. He based his on the sanctification of the moon.
Yep.
And the magic number 19, because, well, he was beholden to the Muslims, and that's their magic number. And of course, you know about the sanctification of the moon in Islam. So
all a bunch of loonies.
He was off by 197 years. And oh, by the way, his 13 principles of Judaism, every single one of them is
horseshit.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the religious, the political, the militaristic must be purged for life to return to the joy experienced in Eden, and God's going to do that. Unlike God's children who revere and respect him, Yahweh's foes will come to fear him. And yes, before they are judged and condemned, they will be confronted with the name they have denied and they sought to obfuscate. Removing Yahweh's name from his testimony and common vernacular of the religious mindset is the single most shameful thing the religious and political have ever done.
Oh, yes.
And so Dode's not pleased with them. And the thing I like about Dode and thing I like about Yahweh is no nonsense.
Very much
He is not accommodating. He doesn't want to save everybody.
Thank goodness.
He is not trying to fix this situation. It says, fill their damn faces with shame, such that they finally inquire about your name.
That's right. Even Wookie agrees.
Yeah. Okay, Wook.
Even
smart of you.
Agrees.
Wook is a good listener. Wook's going to Shamaim. Got a reservation there, pal? I got a paw on the door already. Yeah. I know a guy.
Yeah, he does.
Before it is all over, the religious and political will be acquainted with Yahweh's name. It'll be too late for their benefit, but it's important that they know who they were conspiring against and who is responsible for their ensuing fate. There are so many pictures now on social media of particularly of the Muslims who abducted and raped and tortured Jewish boys and girls and hauled them back into Islamic Gaza on 10/7 of 23, celebrating the carnage and their savagery and sadistic behavior. And then when the IDF eliminates those who perpetrated them, they said, it's recompense, and they said, that this is justice. And I always respond and say, no. Killing them is not justice. Killing them is not recompense. No. Those who perpetrated such grievous harm, raping, torturing, abducting children, babies, mothers, gouging fetuses out of mothers and holding them up while the mother is still alive, cutting them to pieces, they will be tormented sevenfold for what they did before they're sent to hell. So they should be humiliated, Dode writes. They should be ashamed. They should be embarrassed. They should be mortified, feeling horribly guilty. And they should be so nervous that they tremble in fear for all remaining time, forevermore.
I think they're pretty emboldened at the moment, but...
So let them be anxious and confused. Let them be disgraced and ashamed. And then lose their whereabouts, causing them to vanish while allowing them to waste away. Those who have spoken ill of Israel, Marxists today, of which you have a huge percentage of the youth today.
Oh, yeah.
Muslims, 2 billion of them, who are resolutely not just anti-Semitic, but given the opportunity would kill and torture Jews.
I'm sure.
The political leaders of the world, the Christian church and Christians who wrote that Jews killed their Jesus and have demonized them and have dehumanized them and have tortured them and subjugated them. Dode's view, as is God's, is that there will be a terrible price that they will pay for what they have done. They're going to waste away. They will have squandered their lives. And they're going to live forevermore in shame. Life in Sheol will be more about being humiliated and ashamed, embarrassed, and even mortified than anything else. There is no torture, just constant humiliation. And it is about discovering that one has been wrong and has chosen poorly. Even as those incarcerated dig for something meaningful, they will remain anxious and confused forever. In his psalm, Dode wrote, and then let them know that you, whose name is Yahowah, are Almighty God over all of the earth.
Hear that, look?
Yahowah.
That's right.
Is God. And until you know that and proclaim that, you have no idea who God is. Your Hashem is not God. Your GSD is not God.
Your Lord is not God.
Your Lord.
Your Jesus is not God.
For damn sure your Jesus and your Allah is not God. Yahweh is God. With the Lord of the earth incarcerated on Towrah, and with those who did Satan's bidding destined to a similar fate, Dode wants the religious to know that God has a name. You see, Dode's purpose is very similar to my own. I have two, he had two. His was to credit Yahowah with everything worthwhile, and then to serve his people by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim.
Yeah.
My goal is to reacquaint Yisrael and the world with Yahweh's name and reacquaint them with the realization that Dode is their Savior, the Messiah, the Son of God, their King, who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim. Now, I will have the opportunity to go one step further and make a sacrifice on behalf of Yisrael on Towrah and to be part of that tremendous performance that's going to be coordinated between Elia and Yahowah on that day.
Oh, a goat, a ram, and a bull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. But for this day, my job is simply to act like the moon, an inert object that, well, not so much inert. It does spin around the earth, doesn't it? But an object that's inanimate and that doesn't create any of its own light, but it reflects the sun's light, particularly in the darkness hours. And the sun represents Dod, and he is the greater luminary. And the moon simply reflects everything that's important to know about Dod.
I've always been in love with the moon personally. If you don't have it, do you know how awful it is?
How
Like,
dark
and
it is
I
at
used
night.
to live in a jungle, like a real jungle. If you have no moon, it's very dark and you don't see much.
Clearly, the moon has value.
Oh yes,
It's just that it's
particularly at
it
night.
is a pale reflection.
It is
of
a
the
pale
sun.
reflection.
We know our place.
It's lovely to have it on a dark night, though.
So as we move back into Daniel and we open the 8th chapter, we return to Hebrew because we have previously been struggling
In Aramaic.
with Aramaic.
Yeah.
And while there is lots of commonality, I will tell you that my Aramaic stems and conjugations and vocabulary isn't quite up to the snuff of what I have learned over the past 24 years in rendering the Hebrew as accurately as possible. But we are now back to our good friend, Hebrew. And as we press ahead, future history is being revealed and explained so that we understand from our past what will transpire in our future. History repeats itself
Oh yeah.
because far too few learn its lessons, and we will not make that same mistake. This is the beginning of Daniel 8. In the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar. Belshazzar is from Bel, which means the Lord. Protect the king. Commonly transliterated as Belshazzar, the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, 556 to 539 BCE. The ruler, a communication appeared to me. I, Daniel, which means my God is judgmental, had it shown to me after the previous one. Daniel 8:1. So now it's 553 BCE. Daniel is still a prisoner in Babylon, although as a result of his literacy and intellect, he is an advisor to Belshazzar, a conniving, money-grubbing, and murderous usurper. By this time, however, he knew that Babel's days were numbered. The demise was imminent. The extravagantly adorned city-state was doomed because it had institutionalized religion and had integrated it into the government, not unlike the Catholic Church for a few hundred years, or
For most
more
of
correctly,
history.
about 1800 years,
Yeah.
or even Judaism in Israel today,
Mm-hmm.
and Islam in some 55 different Islamic majority nations. Although in its death, this maggot, adorned in butterfly wings, would spawn a stream of evil that would flow well beyond the banks of the great river. The political and religious metamorphosis would transpire over 900 years, with the most diabolical monsters evolving out of Babel's hideous shadow. And you know the most direct legacy of Babel is the Bible. Written exactly the same way in Hebrew, means to confuse and confound.
And the
By
story,
intermixing.
the storyline, the narrative is so, oh my God.
Babel is from Ba, and Bel, it means
Yeah,
with
with
the
the
Lord.
Lord.
And the Lord is Hasatan.
Mm-hmm.
As we have noted in Daniel's case, he was principally a reporter. He could not fathom what he had seen, never did. It would be left to us nearly 2,600 years later to interpret the images he had observed. So on this occasion, Daniel isn't retiring for the evening, lying on his bed at night, seeing the revelation in his head. He has been taken to the scene of the action and is now an eyewitness. And while I was viewing the revelation, it came to exist as I was looking that I was in a citadel in Shushan. Shushan is exalted lily or lotus flower, a blue color of a large Egyptian water lily, which covered the walls really throughout Babel. It was considered sacred in Babylon.
It looked like lapis lazuli, yeah.
It's transliterated as Susa. It's the capital of Elam in modern southwest Iran.
Mm-hmm.
From Shush, to exalt,
Mm-hmm.
which was in the province of
Shushan.
Elam.
Oh, Elam. Yeah.
Elam, to conceal. Set between the Zagros Mountains and the Persian Gulf in modern Iran, running parallel to the Gulf, the Tigris River, and the Iraqi border, within the adjacency of the Strait of Hormuz to the northeast of at the mouth of the Euphrates. Then I saw that I myself was in the revelation at the waterway of Ulay. Daniel 8:2. Now, Elam is not well known today, referred to as Tamati by those who lived within the region. It was acknowledged in Sumerian and Akkadian, as well as Hebrew texts, as Elam, signifying that it was the name of Shem's eldest son, who is said to have settled there. Its history spans more than 2 millennia, from 3200 to 539 BCE.
And they've never been able to translate the Elamite language.
Nope.
Nope.
The community grew as a result of 3 tribes allying in response to a series of incursions by Sumer. Sumer was what we call First Babylon. The civilization which developed around at the time, at the mouth of the Euphrates River. This is where Abraham and Sarah emerged on their way to the promised land. It's what the place that they left, which made them approachable by God. To venerate their gods, these people at this time built ziggurats to sun deities, and they carved statues to the Queen of Heaven, replete with fish and serpents. At their zenith, the Elamites successfully raided Babylon and reconstructed elaborate temples and palaces. Ultimately, the Elamites became the Romans, and they destroyed themselves through a series of civil wars with brother fighting brother. Ashurbanipal initiated the most devastating of these eternal conflicts, waging war against his brother, Shamash Shum Uken. After his victory, he described the citadel by saying, Susa, the great holy city, abode of their God, seat of their mysteries. I conquered, I entered its palace, I opened their treasures, where silver and gold, goods and wealth were amassed, and I destroyed their ziggurat of Susa. I smashed its shining copper horns. I reduced the temples of Elam to naught. Their gods and goddesses I shattered to the winds. The tombs of their ancient and recent kings I devastated. The guy was pretty full of himself. I exposed to the sun, and I carried away their bones towards the land of Ashur. And I devastated the provinces of Elam, and on their lands I sowed salt. These fellows were nothing if not militant, covetous, and braggadocious, trumpish, if you if you will, long before Trump's time. There was an interesting, confabulation is the Coppercon. There is an interesting footnote associated with the Shushan story, especially since this prophecy will highlight the rise and fall of the Macedonian Empire, while the next will actually detail the circumstances surrounding Alexander the Not-So-Great's death.
Mhm.
It was in Susa, circa 323 BCE, prior to Alexander's arrival in Babylon and subsequent death, that his most trusted oracle, that of the Swami Kalanas, committed suicide by self-immolation. Prior to his fiery demise, however, the Hindu sage served as Alexander's spiritual advisor, his prophetic forecaster, and his intellectual muse. I think that if I was getting my giggles from a man that burned himself to death, I think I'd find somebody else. I would think that the clown jester, the ultimate Joker and Stooge, would be better than a man that's going to go out in a blaze of glory. Brazen, during their initial meeting, Kalanas actually commanded Alexander the Not-So-Great to strip naked if he wanted to hear what he had to say, a demand that might have led to his death had the sage not also said that Alexander came from Jupiter and thus was a god. An old man at the time, Kalanas was more than twice Alexander's age, but that did not stop him from being the general's favored yoga instructor and conversationalist. Alexander was one weird dude. However, Kalanas ultimately tired of the travel associated with the Macedonians' conquests. So just before going out in a blaze of glory in Susa on a pyre constructed by General Ptolemy, Kalanas told Alexander, "We shall meet in Babylon." It was considered a prophetic announcement of the location of Alexander's impending demise. Continuing with the vision Daniel was witnessing in this place, it is helpful to know that it will soon reveal that this ram represents the Medians because they became Persians following their conquest of Babylonia. Then I lifted up my eyes and I was observant, and behold, a large ram, a powerful leader, a formative ruler, an important governor, someone who shepherds a substantial flock from Mael, male lamb, upright pillar, doorpost, and leader, and Ul, contemptuous, prominent, and wealthy. This is now corrected from 4Q Dan of the Dead Sea Scrolls. One standing out in front of the stream. And upon him were two horns, and the horns were high, they were mighty, and they were conceited. But the one was more exalting and more power-craving than the other, and the more arrogant and domineering one ascended, the former at the end. Daniel 8:3. Well, this is a depiction of Media Persia and how, working together, they throttled Assyria before conquering Babylonia. But the Median kingdom was but a candle in the wind compared to Persia under Cyrus the Great. The famed Persian would go on to profoundly influence the known world. Fitting with the prophecy, few characters have been as arrogant or domineering as Cyrus. He would say of himself, "I am Cyrus, king of the world." Nose in the heavens, he claimed, "I took up my lordly abode in the royal palace amidst rejoicing and happiness. Murdoch, the great lord, established his fate for me, a magnanimous heart of one who loves Babylon." I'm sure Murdoch was quite involved. This is from the Cyrus Cylinder 539 BCE. lovingly brought to you by Marduk.
Yeah, and their horns look exactly as described.
There you go.
Exactly.
There's Mardukum, of Cyrus. Yeah, he was
Incredible,
one
huh?
malevolent narcissist and covert psychopath. He would have been he
And
was
then the bull totems.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
There
He
you
was a
go.
much more accomplished version of the arrogant Trumpster. The
Yes.
Persian military was particularly effective, especially adept at being horsemen, swordsmen, and archers, justifying the use of naga, piercing and goring, in this next statement. Even the depiction of Cyrus as an AL ram seems appropriate because he was a powerful leader, a man who viewed himself as a shepherd both of his people and Yehudim. Compared to most, he was reasonably upright. He was prominent, he was wealthy, and he served to open the door to Yisrael's return. Also accurate, Cyrus would stretch the borders of the Persian Empire in every direction except toward the east. He expanded southward to the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf and northward toward the Scythians and to the Caucasus, even encircling the Black Sea. The western edge of his empire included Egypt, much of Libya, and the southern edge of the Mediterranean. He would rule over Turkey and most of Macedonia and the northern rim of the Great Sea. So this will be our last passage to unpack in this particular program, and we'll return to this testimony in our next episode. I saw, accordingly, the ram attacking by goring westward, northward, and also to the south. And there was not any beast that could withstand his presence. None were spared from his influence. So he acted as he pleased, and he was exalted and became great. Daniel, my God's judgmental, Daniel 8:4. So in the Torah, sheep follow Yahweh's shepherds, while goats are typically cast into a bad lot and often represent an independent and rebellious, headstrong and aggressive attitude. While Cyrus was belligerent and full of himself, at Yahweh's request, he was generous towards Israelites, especially Yehudim, who were held captive in Babylon. Of them, he would continue to record on the Cyrus cylinder, "I have given leave to as many of the Yehudim that dwell in my country as please to return to their own country and to rebuild their city and to build their temple of God at Jerusalem on the same place where it was before. I have also sent my treasurer Mithridates and Zorobabel, the governor of the Yehudim, that they may lay the foundations of that temple. I require also that the expenses for these things may be given out of my revenues. Moreover, I have also sent the vessels which the king Nebuchadnezzar pillaged out of the temple, and I have given them to Mithridates, the treasurer, and to Zorobabel, the governor of the Jews, so that they may have them carried to Jerusalem and may restore their temple of God." End quote. It's quite a statement, isn't it, from a historical document, and realizing that there are those who say that Jews don't have any claim to the land. Well, this was written in Babylon by the most famous of kings.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get any more famous than Cyrus. And he's talking about the Jewish and Israelite claim to Jerusalem and to the land and to sending them back to build the temple on the Temple Mount. Pretty extraordinary, right? Perhaps the ignorant and irrational Marxists who in forums such as the United Nations are wont to deny any association between Jews and Judea or their Temple Mount, ceding it to the Muslims who would not even exist for another 1,200 years.
Nope.
Should consider Cyrus's history of this place. I assume,
But they don't.
I would assume they can read.
Barely.
In spite of this rather of his rather glaring issues. It's now obvious why Yahweh anointed Cyrus such that this Gentile would serve as a means to liberate God's people and fund the rebuilding of Yahweh's house. And it, as we know, as it turned out, unlike most Jews, Cyrus listened to Yahweh and did as God had requested. There are similar examples among the chosen people, although they are few and they are far between. So thank you. We've enjoyed this hour with you, had some surprises along the way that we got to share. Look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Thank you, Leah and Wookie, for having participated in this show. Asher is laying at my feet. We have the keeper of the cables over in his office doing his thing. Maybe he'll show us a happy smile. There he is, the handsome Rich, doing his thing and making all of this work for us. So thank you again for being part of the YAHOWAH blog. Good night.
Shalom.